All right, so this is just a short video to go over that alternate method of factoring messy trinomials. So this is for students who, decomp is not making sense to you and you're looking for a different method to factor those messy trinomials. So hopefully you've listened to the beginning part of that video because I'm not going to go back over it again. But what I will do is I will go over some of the same examples. So if we have 2, that is not a nice looking 2x squared plus x minus 1. That was the first example we did. So to do this by box method, we still have to find those magic numbers. So we're still looking for two numbers that multiply to -2 because that is what 2 times -1 is. It's -2. And we still need to find those same two numbers have to add to what that middle coefficient of the middle term is, which is +1. So I went over that in the last video too, so you can watch that. The numbers are going to be +2 and -1. Okay, so we have to find those magic numbers. So where box method goes is instead of sitting there and decomposing that middle term into the two magic number terms that we found, instead of doing that, we're going to make a box. And the box kind of looks like a Punnett square. Okay, and that's kind of what it looks like. So remember in the English language, we write from left to right, top to bottom, and we read that way. Same thing with filling in this form. So we're going to take this first term and put it in the first box. We're going to take the last term and we're going to put it in the box. Remember, the sign directly preceding the term stays with the term. Now we have two boxes left and we only have one term in the original trinomial. So instead of writing this one term, we're going to write this term split up into the two terms, the numbers that we found, okay? So it doesn't matter which box you place these terms in. So you can put the 2 in one box and the -1 in the other box, and the only thing you have to remember to do is that this middle term had an x in it, so these two magic numbers have to have an x in it as well. If the middle term had an x and a y in it, then these two terms that you wrote down in the box will have to have an x and a y in it. All right, so now from this point forward, what you're going to do is you're going to factor each column and each row. So if I look at this column here, I'm looking for the greatest common factor between 2x squared and 1x. There is no number common, so it is a +1. And the only thing that's common, you take the variable with the lowest degree, so that's x to the power 1 or x, that is the common factor between those two. And then we're going to do the same for the second column. Okay. What is common between 2x and -1? And again, it's just a 2. No, it's not a 2, it's a 1. So I don't know why I said 2. Right, and it's going to be a +1. Okay. And now we're going to do the same thing for both the rows. We're going to do this row here. So what is common between 2x squared and 2x? Well, that is 2x. And then the second column, second row, what is the greatest common factor between -1x and -1? And it is -1. Okay. So for here, the last thing to do is just double check. It's kind of hard to show this without waving my hands around, but if you take 2x and 1x and multiply them together, you should get 2x squared. And if you multiply 2x with 1, you should get +2x. And if you get 1 and times it by -1, you should get -1x. And if you multiply -1 with +1, you should get -1. So it kind of acts as like a multiplication table or a Punnett square. You're multiplying each thing to double check and it works. So what are your factors? this goes in one bracket, and we're going to drop that 1 in front of the x because we're lazy like that. And we're going to have this as our second bracket, 2x minus 1. And of course, you could have also written this as 2x minus 1 times x plus 1. The order does not matter. So let's try another one. Let's try that 6x squared minus 13x plus 6. The first thing we need to do is find our magic numbers. Okay. So two numbers that multiply to positive 36, and those same two numbers have to add to negative 13. You find that because they have a positive product, they have to both have the same signs. They're both positive, they're both negative, but because they have a negative sum, it means they have to both be negative, and our numbers are 9 and 4. Okay, so we're going to again draw our box. The first term goes in the first box. The last term goes in the last box. And then the two magic numbers that we found go in the remaining two boxes. But we have to remember, because that middle term had an x, that these two magic numbers also have an x. Okay. And now we're going to factor this column. The greatest common factor between 6x squared and 4x is going to be 2x. And whatever symbol's in the first box, the top box or the box to the left, is usually going to be the symbol of the greatest common factor that you pull out. So here is an example of that. We have negative 9x and 3, and the greatest common factor between the two of them is a 3. But because this is negative, we're going to do a negative 3, okay, instead of just a positive 3. And we're going to double check with our signs. That's an important step with box method, to just double check that you've got your signs right. So now we're going to do the first row. So that's this one this way. And we're going to find the greatest common factor between 6x squared and negative 9x. And it's going to be positive 3x. Now I'm doing positive because this first term here is positive. Okay. Now I'm going to do the last row right here. And the common factor between negative 4x and positive 6 is going to be 2. But because the first term is negative, we're going to use negative 2. Okay, so we're going to double check. And the double check, again, is kind of hard to show on this. But if I do 3x times 2x, doesn't work very well at all. Do I get 6x squared? Yes. If I do 3x times negative 3, do I get negative 9x? Yes. Ooh, I lost my other term there somehow. It disappeared on me. It was a negative 2. If I do negative 2 times 2x, I get negative 4. And if I do negative 2 times negative 3, I get positive 6. I'm sorry, that looks very messy. So if I delete all this extra purple highlighting that did not work the way I wanted it to, and rewrite out that negative 2 that somehow disappeared, my two factors are going to be what's on the top here. So that's going to be 2x minus 3. And it's going to be multiplied by what's on the side here, which is 3x minus 2. And again, instead of doing that messy kind of multiplication box or table method to check, I could also use distributive method to double check my answer. And then group my like terms, 6x squared minus 13x plus 6. And of course, this is the same thing as this. So again, we're not changing the value of the expression, we're just manipulating it. And this has been the explanation of box method, which hopefully will help those of you who are not fans of the lovely decomp method or factor by grouping. All right, hope you guys are having a great day. If you have any questions, please let me know.